I have spent 20 years in Russia, which was very, very useful for me, because Italy was a provincial place, and Russia and the Soviet Union was a wonderful panorama for me. That means I began there my journalistic career. Before I was a political leader in the Communist Party in the north. Genoa was my city. After that I came back from Moscow. I have seen all the perestroika period, beginning from Brezhnev till Putin, all the time.
Brezhnev, Gorbachev, Andropov.
Brezhnev, Andropov, Chernenko, Gorbachev, Yeltsin, Putin. Almost all general secretary of the Communist Party and after. After that I came back to Italy and I began to follow the question of war and peace movement. I was engaged in that. And finally they presented me to the European Parliament. It was a coalition, it was not a party. And surprisingly for myself, I entered the European Parliament in 2004, 2009. 5 years, very important for me, because there I followed two big commissions, which it is the most important experience for me. It is the commission for the extraordinary renditions of the CIA after terrorism, the war on terror. And it was a very important point. I wrote a book on that. And after that, I followed the Commission for Climate Change. Very, very, for me personally, I say, very important because I learned so much. And from this point of view, the European Parliament is a very good observatory. You can have all the information, you can use this information to make politics. And this has been a turning point for me also, because I understood that the crisis was becoming dramatically strong and fast. What I have learned after that is a consequence of my stay in Russia and of my stay in the European Parliament.
In Brussels.
This is my career.
Thank you very much for coming here tonight. First time in Macedonia?
First time in Macedonia.
You like it or?
I like it. I am very, very much surprised.
Really?
Yes.
In a positive or negative way?
Positive, because, for instance, I believe that every people have to have his own history, very careful to follow what was the past. I am not a conservative, but I believe that history is very important. And I see that you have built a city remembering yourself, your history and your past and your personality as a people. My idea is, for instance, that a people is like a man. He can be very wise and very stupid sometimes. He can be ill, he can be mad, he can be jealous, and so on. This is a very important notion for me, because, and this I have learned in Russia, because Russia is a huge country with many people, a country of people, different people. When I was Italian, when I was in Italy, I mean, I am Italian till now, but when I was in Italy, I believed that Italy is one language, one people. And when I arrived in Russia, I understood that there can be a country with many different people, different languages, different religions, different attitudes, and so on. And this is very important to understand the situation, very important. That means I have seen the city, only the city, but the city, it says that there is a strong sense of your own past. And this is very important. This is a cultural sign, very important. Disappeared. Simply disappeared. Well, the former communists now are the Democratic Party, so-called, but they are not neither communist nor socialist. They are simply center. They are neoliberal. That means this kind of left is gone. And the other left, that is the more Marxist, Leninist, this kind, they are out of the parliament because they have lost any sense of the reality. And in the last election, February this year, they all together, this little party, there are, according to my information, there are 7 or 8 communist parties.
In Italy?
Yes, but very little, very tiny. They tried to unify themselves, and they took altogether 3.2%. That means this is the representation of the left, the traditional left, which does not mean that there is not an opposition. On the contrary, there is a huge amount of opposition now, but it is not represented. They have no point of reference. And in this situation, yes, we witnesses in February beginning, I believe so, a beginning of a real revolution, political revolution in the minds of people. Look, the numbers are clear. In the 25th of February this year, 2013, 10 million people abandoned all the old traditional party.
Parties?
Parties. That means the Democratic Party and the party of Berlusconi, Partito della Libertà, all together lost in one day 10 million votes. It is a revolution, never happened in the history of the Italian Republic. This is one point. The second point is that one party which before did not exist, that is the Five-Star Movement, took 8.5 million votes, 25%.
To je partijata na Grillo.
Di Grillo, yes. It's so-called Five-Star Movement, okay? 8.5 million votes. It is a huge change, 25%. And I will add, 30% of the electorate did not vote. That means if you put together the changes, the new party and the abstention, you understand that we are in face of a real political revolution, which is going on now. Yesterday, the party of Berlusconi collapsed and the Democratic Party also is in a big difficulty because they are divided. And why they are divided? They have no idea of the future. No idea of the future. This is a question. The situation today is absolutely unstable. I believe it is the beginning of a real political collapse of the traditional parties.
Da zaključam, znači, jedan poranešen komedijant, showman, zema 8,5 milioni glasači od dvete najseriozni partiji i od najbogatiji od Италянец, koji го знаеме, освојува многу гласови и уште 30% од сите други не излегуваат воопшто на гласање, веројатно разочарани од понудата политичка.
Yes. This is one of the reasons why President Napolitano and all the old party, the two party, don't want any election. They fear that they can be defeated altogether. Because we have an electoral law, we say this law, la legge del porcello, this a pig law, because it gives the absolute majority. It's incredible, but it is this way. Believe me, we have an electoral law that if you are a party and you take more votes than the other parties, you will gain in the lower house the absolute majority of seats. Look, for instance, you take 25%, the second party takes 23%, okay? You have the full majority in the lower house. It's completely absurd. But with this law, theoretically, Beppe Grillo could take the majority of the country.
And rule the country.
Yeah, and rule the country. Well, it's very complicated to explain, but I support him, frankly speaking, because to a certain extent, he certainly is an actor, is a comic, but he showed that a very high sensibility. He understood that there was a big discontent in the country. He followed this, he perceived, it has been very intelligent, nothing to say.
Giulietto, која е иднината на левицата во Италија?
I believe that they have no future. Frankly speaking, what they have to do? I have the idea that this kind of things happens when a party has no a real interpretation of life. They have lost the connection with the people because they don't propose anything. My idea is that the crisis is a huge and very big. And not only economical. I mean, the crisis is a very complex situation. I don't believe that there is a financial crisis, but because in the same time there is a crisis of resources, there is a crisis of climate change, there is a crisis of water, there is a crisis of food, there is a crisis of population. We forgot every day that at the beginning of the last century, the population of Earth was 1,200,000,000 people. Now we are 7 billion. And the world is changed so deeply.
And the water is the same.
And the water is the same, resources are the same, and now there is a climate change. We are producing climate change. And climate change is a big truck full of explosive coming against us, and we are doing nothing. If the temperature of the world will grow more than 2 degrees, we will face a gigantic disaster all over the world. And we don't understand. Nobody knows that. And if you wanted to govern Europe or Italy, you have to have an idea. What do we do? What we can propose to the people? It's not a question to live better or worse. It's a question to survive. For millions of people, it's a question of surviving. And if you have no program, if you have not an idea of the future, can you be believed? Now in Italy there is 38% of the youth not working. We are in a tragedy. Well, and this is a real problem. The new generation, they don't understand what the politicians are saying. Their language is the language of the 28th century, not the modern language. This kind of people cannot have any confidence in this kind of party. And the left, this is the point to answer to your question. The left is now the same force which believes that we can grow again. Every day they say, okay, tomorrow the gross national product will grow. Be quiet. We will go out from the crisis in some months. They are lying, certainly, because it is impossible. But in any case, if possibly we can grow, the danger will be even more, because we are changing nature. We are destroying nature. Well, in one word, we are in a situation where now it is clear that there are limits to resources all over the world. I mean in terms of planet. There are limits, it's evident. The oil is finishing. And after oil, we'll finish gas. And after gas, a little bit later, we'll finish coal and uranium also. That means we are in front of a crisis which is not possible to resolve during this century. Which kind of light we will have after that? We have to pass to the energy of sun. But to pass to this energy, you need time and huge amount of capital investments. Well, to build the society of cars. We are surrounded by cars, okay? Everything is oil. This is oil, this is oil, and so on. Well, to pass from one society to the other society, you need time, not less than 50 years, and a huge amount of money, which is already calculated, okay? Well, if you wanted to speak with people, you have to give this kind of thing. You have to tell the truth. The first thing, Beppe Grillo won because he was going in the square telling the truth. Look, we are not in a situation which can be persecuted for a long time. It's in the center of the crisis, and people understand there is no solution. That's a problem. There is now no solution because you need party, you need a political line, you need people understanding, a mass understanding of this. And this is the problem of Beppe Grillo, resuming, because he had the intuition of the situation, but he could promote to the parliament young people without any experience. They don't know politics. They don't know what to do. They find themselves inside an institution which is very complicated. That means we need time. There is a question of time. Who will arrive first? A new generation or the crisis, the big crisis? This is a problem. And it is not a question of Italy. The same question is in Spain, in Greece, in Portugal, in Holland, in Finland even, and even in France. The only country which now can, but it is an illusion, can live very well is Germany. But it's an illusion, because Germany cannot live for a long time very well if the rest of Europe will live very bad. It's impossible. All the two, they have to understand all together. They, till now, don't understand. But I believe that in 2 years maximum, they will understand.
What can you tell us about the economical crisis in Italy?
Well, the crisis is not an Italian crisis. The crisis is a European first, in the first sight. And the second, the crisis is the crisis of debt.
Of debt.
And the debt is not European, it's American. This is a big question. We are living the crisis, the final crisis, I underline this term, the final crisis of the dollar. Well, Mr. de Villepin, the former foreign minister of France at the time of Chirac, has been nominated director of the new rating agency of China. You know, very interesting thing. And Mrs. de Villepin, the new rating agency is Dagong. The name is Dagong. I see that you are almost Chinese. Well, Dagong is a big deal. And, well,
Dagong means big deal?
Big deal. Da big, gong at enterprise, something of this kind. I am studying Chinese. Well, well, de Villepin told, look, we are in a situation where
Zašto Kinezite otvarat nova rating kompanija?
Yeah. Okay. They did that because they have no confidence anymore in Standard & Poor, Fitch, Moody's, the rating agency of the United States. Everybody should know that all the rating agencies are American.
And corrupt.
Corrupt. They simply they have a conflict of interest. They are working for the United States, not for the world. They are working for them. And the Chinese have any confidence anymore in this agency. They create their own agency, but they did not put a Chinese at the head of this. They put a French foreign minister. And they told a very important thing. In this moment there are words of Mr. de Villepin that he is speaking for the Chinese, okay? And he told, well, we are in a situation where all around the world are moving $150 trillion without any coverage. That means...
Once again about the number?
$150 trillion. 1 trillion is 1,000 billion dollars. That means 150,000 billion
Miliardi.
dollars. This is the situation, without any coverage. That means...
No gold coverage.
No gold coverage, nothing, no gold coverage. The cover of this money is the military power of the United States of America. Nothing more, nothing less. How long the Chinese can suffer this situation? They have in their safe 3 trillion of the American debt.
They own American debt.
Yeah, they own American debt. And they cannot suffer a devaluation of the dollar. The big question on the table is, which kind of money will come after the dollar? This is a big question. And the Chinese are already proposing clearly, and I believe they are wise. They are serious. When they say, we have to create a new group of money, all together, dollar, yen, yuan, euro, certainly. And to have an agreement on that. That is, the International Monetary Fund is America. The United States have the majority in the Council of Administration of the IMF,
That's a private enterprise.
That's a private enterprise working for the United States, mainly for the West. Okay, now this is a crisis. What is the result? That the crisis of the United States of America, the debt crisis of the United States, went from the United States to Europe in 2008. And this began the tragedy of Greece. Greek has been the first experiment. They say now, you have to pay the debt. But this debt existed even before. Italy had 2,000 billion euro debt before that.
Before the crisis?
No, there was no crisis in Italy. No crisis in Italy before. Because now they say, well, the market will dictate the new rules. The market. What does it mean, the market? Which market? I tell you which market. The LIBOR, London Interbanking Exchange. 20 banks of the West are deciding how much it costs the Italian debt, the Greek debt, the Spanish debt, and so on. They are deciding. There is no rule. They are every morning, every week, every morning at 11 o'clock, this bank meet in London, and they decide according to their own opinion, nothing more, that our debt cost 5%. And this means that Italy now have to pay, look the numbers, Italy now has to pay 83 billion euro every year, not to repair the debt, simply to pay the interest on the debt. You can imagine? 83 billion. And the official numbers already known, because have been published, they already provide that the next year will be 89. In 2 years will be 100. And in 2017, the burden of the interest will be 107 billion euro. We are going to collapse in any case. I give you another example so you can understand. At the beginning of the Greek crisis, the debt of Greece, the public debt of the Greece, was 133% of the GDP. Okay? Now, after 4 years of very heavy contraction of the expenses, the debt of Greece is 175%. That means the line of Europe is completely mad. I have no other word. They are completely mad. They are making a disaster with their own hands. And why Italy is in crisis? Because Italy cannot spend nothing. We cannot have money for that. And if we have more money, we have to pay a huge amount of interest. That means we are blocked. The only way to go out is to change the rules. If we don't change the rules, Europe will collapse. Will collapse economically and politically, all the two. That means the so-called Troika, IMF, Commission, Central Bank of Europe, are creating a disaster. They have to change their line, simply. And, well, the next European election will show the situation. I believe that in this situation, the old party will lose any grip on the situation. And they will lose next year, in May. And according to the fact that the left wing, the socialists and social democrats in Europe are not able to give any real assessment of the situation, the result will be that in the next parliament, the right extremist and nationalist right wing in Europe will gain 250, 300 members of the parliament. This is a real possibility. A real possibility. We are going to a big political crisis. This is clear, because I don't see any capacity of the European rulers to find a way out.
И на край за економскиот дел за Италија, тие билјадници, успешни мали фирми со кои јас сум се среќавал и секој македонец се среќавал, секој од Балканов се среќавал, купувал, увезувал чевли, кондури, облека, било што, бижутерија и така натаму. Нещо што италијанскиот бизнис сектор бил препознатлив за нас, за нормалните луѓе, не за големиот бизнис. Сега тој е каде?
It does exist, but every day is losing strength. Well, I told you today that the last week or the last month, more than 200 entrepreneurs killed themselves. That they are not able to survive. They are very good workers. It's a wonderful skill. Italy has been dominating the market of the little and middle enterprise. It's a wonderful technology. We are exporting everywhere. But if you have not money, you cannot invest. The banks are not giving credit. That means the skill is existing. But the crisis is a financial crisis, and they are blocked because they have any financial aid. Well, one thing, nobody knows that, but last year, the Central European Bank decided to give 1 trillion euro to produce. They produced from nothing, okay, to the computer. They decided, okay, Europe needs money. Okay, they produced 1 trillion money, and they gave this trillion money to the banks at the interest of 0.5%. What did the banks, including the Italian banks, because this has been done for all the banks of the European Bank, okay, what they did, they took the money and they used this money to buy the Italian debt, which is 4%. 4.5%. That means the European Central Bank made a big gift to all the bankers and say, okay, we will give you money to have other money, and no 1 billion went to help the Italian production. This is the trap.
There is no way those money to go directly, not through the banks?
There is a way, but they believe that it is not possible. The German dictates the rules. The Maastricht Treaty provides that the states, every state, cannot have money straight from the bank in the primary market of money. We could buy in the secondary market of money, but in any case, we are forbidden to have money, fresh money to invest. And they put inside the new rules that you have to stay in parity. That means you cannot enlarge your indebtedness because you have to pay and you are forbidden. This way, every government in Europe, Spain is the same, Greece certainly, Portugal, Italy, and the second question is that Italy, for instance, the French banks owns a larger part of the Italian debt. If Italy will go down, also France will go down. There is a domino situation which
Greece.
The Greece is the same. Well,
German goes down if Greece goes down.
Yes, exactly, because, well, to this moment it was clear that Greece is not in condition to pay. And they secretly, this summer, decided to cut 50% of the debt, of the Greek debt.
Administratively?
Yes, simply. They took an agreement with the bank and said, okay, you cannot have all the capital, be quiet, take 50%. Okay? But they did not say this. Look, the question to understand is, all this economy is a casino. How you say this?
Casino.
Yes, it's a casino.
Gambling.
It's a gambling. And they say there are some laws of economy. No laws. This is a complete trick. They are gambling simply with our money. The result will be that they will destroy the European way of life. This is the ending point. And after that, they will come and will say, okay, now you have to pay, but you have no money, that you have to privatize everything. You have to sell everything.
To who?
Like
to them. Look, to the American.
To the American.
To the American, to the big
interests.
capital. Certainly, they are inventing, well, $1,500 trillion of fictive money will be used to buy everything. will be used to buy our Coliseum, for instance, or the Galleria degli Uffizi, or our beaches, or our buildings, and so on. And the same will do in Spain, in Portugal, and in Greece. The Pantheon, they will buy the Pantheon. Somebody believes that it is a joke. It is not a joke. The Prime Minister, if I am not wrong, the Prime Minister of Norway, or not of Finland, told, okay, if you want another loan, you have to sell the Pantheon. Look, it's clear, it's already clear what they are doing.
Če na ta tema, če otidem malko po globalno, sakaše Giulietto nešto da replicira, pa imam za Flora jedno prašanje.
No, simply I wanted to clarify my position, because I am not an Eurosceptic.
I am Eurosceptic.
No, I wanted to clarify. I have criticized very harshly Europe, but I believe that Europe has not to be destroyed. This Europe can be changed, has to be changed very deeply, because the European project at the very beginning was very important and very positive. It was the idea to build a new state without any war, for instance, by consensus. And it was a recognizing of the unity of the European culture, which is a big value, I believe. Is a huge amount of intelligence. And Europe is so big and so strong, has been so strong, because it has a common system of value, which is good. But this project has been destroyed. The last years, the last 30, 40 years have been destroyed. And we did not understand, did not realize immediately what is going on. Now the power has gone to the bankers, straight. They are the, well, I will use a word of Paul Krugman, that is a Nobel Prize for economy, and he told, they are the masters of the universe. This is the point. The power passed in their hands. The question of the people of Europe is to take again this power in their hands. And why I say this? Because, well, the player of this poker game are four: United States, China, Russia, and Europe. All the other, India, will come later. The crisis is coming very fast and very, very strong. In the next 10 years, 10, 15 years, we will have a huge political, economical, geopolitical, and climate change crisis. That is, the resources will finish. Who will decide the outcome of this crisis? These four giants, these four. If China and Russia will go together, it will be war. The West against China. In 5 years, if you take into account the numbers, it is not a prophecy, it's numbers. In 5 years, we will face, when I say we, say 1 billion people of the West, will face 1.5 China. China is growing 10% every year. 10 for 5 years means 50. 1.5 China in 5 years. Today is 2013, okay? 2018, there will be no resources for everybody on this planet, because China alone, I don't speak about India, about Brazil, Indonesia, Mexico. I am speaking only about China. In 5 years, there will be not sufficiently resources for the rest of the world. And the United States are 100 million people. They are living, spending 25% of all the resources of the planet, and they are 300 million people. Confronting with the rest, it's impossible. That means we are going to war in reality if we understand the situation, because all the Americans will accept to confront themselves with the rest of the world, or that means they have to reduce their standard of life. If China is becoming so big and so strong, they will eat the same meat that we eat this morning, today. there is no place for their cows except Africa. And they are buying Africa. Well, it's in front of our eyes. That means what I am saying, or we find a way to stay all together on this planet, or we will fight. And the question is, can you imagine that the next, or this, or the next president of the United States will tell the truth to the Americans? You believe that tomorrow Mr. Obama goes on TV, all the channels together, and says, look, my dear citizen, we told you that you can live all your life in a very high condition. It was wrong. We can't. We can't. You believe that Obama will do that? Obama will not do that. That means all the Americans continue to believe that they can be the richest of the world, the power of the world, and they can dictate the will to the other 6 billion people. It's impossible. This is the beginning of the war. And well, when I wrote a book, when I wrote this, and I was alone, and somebody on TV, you are mad? Because why you speak about war? And do you remember what happened in September? That the Pope of Rome, Mr. Pope Francesco, told, pay attention, we are going to the Third World War. He's a Pope. It is a serious thing. He understands. And I believe it is one of not so many leaders of the world understanding the danger we are facing. That means, I believe, and I finish, Europe is a big player. Europe is not armed. We have no arm. Well, we have the French bomb, but doesn't mean anything. Okay? Europe is a huge technological giant. Has no resources except a little oil in Norway. Okay? That means Europe is a powerful technological intelligence and culture. And from the other side we have Russia, which is our neighbor, which has all the resources for a transition. All the resources. Oil, gas, coal, gold, platinum, tungsteno, all you have. Okay? We are in a condition, we should have a big strategic cooperation with Russia. And I believe that Russia plus Europe together can play a very big role to avoid the confrontation.
Separate?
Huh?
If they play separate?
If they play separate, they cannot play separate. Europe will be taken in the West, that means with the United States, inter-Atlantic alliance, and Russia will go to China, inevitably. That means we will have a big clash with two parts of the world, 1/6 of the population of the world and the other 5 billion. We are going very badly to this situation.
Ја ќе замолам сега Giulietto во контекст на ова што Флора беше скептик околу тоа ќе има, ќе нема војна и каков тип на војна ќе има, да ја образложи својата математичка операција околу тоа зашто е тој заклучок таков негов.
Well, I am not a prophet. I cannot say when. I simply watch the numbers. And the numbers says that we are going to a collision. It's evident. And it is a long time, which is evident, but we continue to live like in the past, like business as usual. It's impossible. In any case, it's impossible. But one thing I would like to answer to your opinion, certainly I respect your opinion, but unfortunately, the situation is not so clear and not so pleasant. Millions of people in this country, in Italy and in Europe, don't know nothing about what is happening. And the big question is why the people in the street don't know these things. The answer is very clear. We have a mainstream system media which hide the reality and hide systematically. It is not a mistake. is a concrete political action. We are not free to know the things. Newspapers are not free. Television are not free. Information is not free. Who is dominating this market? United States of America. They have the domination, even of internet. All the servers of internet are in the United States. That means we are not living in a democratic place. Our elections are a fiction, are a ceremony. People are going to vote without having the necessary information. And they cannot understand what you mean democracy when millions of people are going to vote without knowing nothing. Which kind of democracy represents this Europe when only 47% voted? 53% did not vote in any case. Why they did not vote? Because they don't know. They are not informed. That means the European values are a very complicated situation. They are good. They are good. I like them. I like to be free. I like to come here to speak openly about what I know. But we are a very tiny level. We are a part of the population. All the big million people are not watching this kind of... I hope you will be 2 million. We will have 2 million. But in Italy, 30 million people are not watching this information. How much is this information of the democratic Europe or the democratic United States? Did you try to make the account? I use to measure with numbers. Well, the information of a normal television channel in Italy, Germany, France, United States, doesn't matter, 5%. All the rest, 95%, what is? I ask you, what is 95% of the communication river who arrives to million people? 95%, I repeat the number, is entertainment and advertising. This is the numbers of the European and Western democracy. 95% of advertising and entertainment, which is the culture of the West. What has transformed the West in a public of consumers, compulsive consumers, has been created by the media. And the media are not, in any case, democratic. In any case. And I underline. What is a commission, the European Commission? Or what is the President of the United States? Or the Senate of the United States? Who they are? They have been elected? Do you believe that they've been elected? Yes, certainly, formally, they have been elected. But how much it costed the election of Mr. Obama? If I am not wrong, something like $800 million. Who can be elected with $800 million? This is democracy, or is a quantity of money to buy a president? It is a title of a book I have not written, unfortunately, but it is an American. Well, that means we have to reflect very seriously, because we have told all the world that Europeans are the creator of the European value. And we have declared that our European values are universal. Is it true that? In the modern world, do you believe that it is true, this phrase, the European values are the universal value of the planet? Look, we are 1 billion people. The rest, 6 billion people, don't agree with us. Take it into account this consideration. 6 billion people don't believe in our value. China.
And we are all the same.
Okay, we are a periphery. We are now a periphery. Okay? China is another civilization, another culture. They have other value. I don't want to say that they are better. I am not saying that they are better. I am saying they are diverse. Russia Russia, which is part of European culture. Yes, they have the same cinema, the same theater, well, the same more or less language, okay? Russia is another civilization. I lived there 20 years, I know what I am saying.
India also.
India, don't speak. 1 billion people with not one civilization, 10, 15 civilization inside India. And after that there is Brazil, there is Indonesia, Mexico, it's all Africa. We are a minority in this world. The big question we have to understand that Europe is not the center of the world, simply. And you have to respect them. That means I repeat, I like our value, but I don't like when we believe that we can sell our value to other people. I know very well Afghanistan. I have been there 7 times, in different times. When there was a Soviet occupation, I was there. After that, I was there when there was the war. I was the first journalist arriving in Kabul when the Taliban arrived. That day I was there, okay? But when we begin the war to export our democracy in Afghanistan, it is laughing. Excuse me. It is an offense to the intelligence. I have been there when there were the elections. I was a member of the European Parliament. I was there in a formal official delegation, and I have seen how they voted. How can vote democratically a people where 85% of the population is not able to write? That means we are making a very bad work as a West, I believe. We are creating a very difficult and dangerous situation. And it is, I believe, I hope, that the West will be sufficiently intelligent to understand that we cannot govern the world this way. We will create a big problem for ourselves. This is the point we are reaching. The old world is finished. A new world is coming. Who will pay for that? We have to pay. We have to pay, unfortunately, because we have the money. We have created all this mess with our hands, so intelligent, so strong, so clever, but we have created the mess. And now we have to repair the mess for the other 6 billion people. This is the point. If we understand that, we will live in peace. That means war is not necessary. I am optimist from this point of view. I believe we can correct ourselves, but we need a very big effort to change our idea. That means I don't provide the war in 5 years. It is not my idea. I look the numbers, I see that the danger is very high. I see we have not so much time. Are we able to change?
Are we able?
Well, I hope, but unfortunately, the number says that, well, you know, the Club of Rome, was at the beginning of this reflection, my reflection. You know, the Club of Rome in the 70s. At the beginning of the 70s, they wrote a book, a collective book, wonderful, I believe. Everybody should write this book because it is possible to understand almost anything. And they wrote, look, they put all the numbers on the electronic system they had at the time, and they say, a political elite of a country requires 15 years to pass to the point where they understand the situation, to the other point where they begin to change. 15 years, statistically. When the problem appears, the political elite is not able immediately to understand. It requires time. Okay, 15 years, statistically. Look, we are in 2013. Add 15 years. I will tell you, we will arrive late. That means we have to change fastly, faster than we are doing. What is it possible that? I believe that one of the fundamental points to change the situation is to change the media. We have to speak to millions of people, to explain them that this system is not working anymore. We have to change the system. And how we can do that? We have to go on the street, but it is not sufficient. If you go in the street, I am going around. I can speak to 200 people, 100 people, but at the same time, the TV shows this is not a show, in fact. This is a real discussion. My compliment for that. But people is watching TV, entertainment and advertising. We have to reach this million of people and tell, look, your life was that, okay, not very good, but to a certain extent, good for us. We have been privileged, okay? Well, look, if you want that your son, your children live in peace, you have to change now, not in 15 years, now. We have not time for 15 years. This is my proposal. That means I am not a prophet, I repeat, I am simply a thinker, putting together all the data I have. But I am a privileged, I know I am a privileged. I know that I know many things because I was a journalist, because I was informed, because I was lucky. Nothing more and nothing less. But all the others have not this privilege. They are working all the day. They have 8 hours occupied with concrete things. They have to educate their children. They cannot know this. That means we have to gather intelligence all together and, well, I finish, excuse me for the long word, but I say the solution to this crisis is not in Europe. The solution will be only if we put together the Chinese culture, the Muslim culture, the European, certainly, culture, the Anglo-Saxon, we have to, the solution will be a common solution of humankind, because we have not the key. We have not the key.
It is too idealistic?
Well, maybe I am realistic, or look, do you prefer I am catastrophist or I am idealistic? Well, in Italy, they say that I am too much catastrophic, but in the same time, I am much more optimistic. I worked with Gorbachev, and I work now with Gorbachev. Gorbachev was a naive man, but at the same time was very courageous. He found Russia, the Soviet Union was collapsing, and he saw the situation, and he said, okay, I have to begin something new. We cannot live this way. And it was very important for our history. I believe that this kind of people exist. The question is that they are isolated. They don't know each other. They cannot work together. We have to find a place and to build a new political elite of wise men able to say, not under blackmail. The question is... But
the existing elite will not allow that.
Look, this is the problem. When I see that Madame Merkel has its own telephone under control from NSA, I say, maybe Madame Merkel is a wise woman. Maybe. I don't know. But she is under blackmail. And she cannot tell the truth. We need some kind of people who are not blackmailed. Or it is impossible to blackmail them. It's a new we need a new political elite everywhere in Europe. It's impossible to resume this discussion in 2 words.
No, of course.
Because it's a huge team. I have written 4 books on that, and I made a film with many friends of mine. I am sure, 100%, that 9/11 has been organized inside the United States by a group of, conspiracy people. They wanted to change this history of the whole world, and they changed, and they succeeded, unfortunately, for us, everybody, because the war on terror began exactly in that day. It was the first impression from the very beginning. I have been in Afghanistan in January 2001, and I was in Genoa in August 2001. I have seen the dramatic events in Genoa when the G8 was, and I have written 2 books that year. One returning from Afghanistan and one immediately after the event in Genoa. And when the 9/11 happened, I watched TV and I immediately perceived that it was a tragic show created for the West. And the reason was that in 2000, the United States, for the first time after war, entered in recession. The first crisis.
After 1945.
Yes, exactly. In the year 2000, immediately after a real coup d'etat, the United States have elected the President Bush for the first mandate with a clear falsification.
Yeah.
Mr. Bush never has been elected by the electorate of the United States. We have the proof of that, many proof. One who has written wonderful things about that was Gore Vidal, an American writer, very well informed and very wise. That means the United States had a political coup d'etat conducted to the election with a trick of President Bush. The neocon went to the power. And immediately after that, they began the war that they have provided. I don't know exactly who of them, but according to Mr. Ferdinando Imposimato, who is a very important judge, honorary member of the Supreme Court of Italy, I quote him, we have sufficiently element to open a juridical cause against some members of the administration of the United States of America for having taken part to a genocide. This is not me. He's a very important man who has had very big responsibility in the Italian judiciary. That means we have all the elements to say that some people there with an American passport organized this operation to unify all the West around the United States who were entering in the first crisis after the Second World War. They needed that. You mentioned the Pearl Harbor, and I answer to your question. You know, they have killed 3,000 people, a little bit less. And for us, for you, for me, for everybody, we have not killed anybody. We are normal people. But we face a big difficulty to understand that can exist men who are deciding that thousands of people have to die. And they are not like me, like you. They are different. They are completely different. They have a huge responsibility in every step of their life. Look, you want an example? Much worse than the 9/11. The Tonkin, you remember the Tonkin? They invented the Tonkin.
Nothing happened at all.
We have the proof that that incident never happened.
Yeah,
the Vietnamese were not there.
Yeah, nobody.
They did not attack any American vessel.
Yes.
Okay? After that, they began a war where 50,000 Americans died.
And
50,000 American soldiers died, and 1.5 million Vietnamese died. Don't forget that. Somebody took this decision. You are not astonished? I am astonished. 10,000 more than 9/11. They can do that. And after that, what I can tell you, I have studied all the questions, and after my film, was a step. Well, a step, not a final. Now we know 20 times more proofs about what happened 9/11. I can tell you one thing, and nobody will deny what I'm telling. We have no proof, zero proof, that 19 terrorists were on those 4 planes. Zero. There is no proof of their presence there. And we examined all the things we have, all the documents. Excuse me, for those who are watching this, go to the site consensus911.org. There is the result of this inquiry. It's a huge material. Everybody can see. If I am mad, okay, go there. There are the documents. You can find all the documents, okay? Well, there is no one proof that the 19 terrorists, so-called, were on the plane. Sufficient? Everybody, if you go in the street and you are asking somebody, how many towers fell 9/11? 90% will say, oh, the Twin Towers. And the others? The others don't know that the towers falling that day are 3. But the plane were hitting only 2 towers. And why the third fall? The third, nobody knows. You are reading. If you want another proof, it's very simple. Everybody can do that. Go on internet and Google and say, the Commission 9/11, official Commission 9/11 result. There is a book. They published a book, and you read all the book, and you don't find any hint to the fact that the 3 towers fell. No one line. And you can imagine, they gathered the commission with senators, very important,
and
very
official. One tower.
They put a commission report. They don't write one word about the 3rd tower. It's a completely fake situation. But they won. They won. Because now we are 13 or 11 years, 12 years after. We can discuss about that. We can find the proofs, what you want. But the war in Afghanistan is already begun, is already on.
And in Iraq.
And Iraq also, and Libya also, and maybe very short Syria. That means they won. The war on terror began. The question is that who is controlling this situation? When I told that the media are lying, this is a proof. It is 12 years, the media of all the world, except Russia, except Latin America, are lying. That means they are closing the question. The question does not exist anymore. I made a film. I was a member of the European Parliament. I told this story. Well, I decided to show my film in 2008 in the European Parliament. And I invited there all the members of the European Parliament and all the journalists, the foreign journalists in Brussels. No one came. 6 members of the Parliament came. 3 of them were my friends. The other 3 are, well, one from Latvia, the second from Germany, the third from from Spain. The other were friends of mine, but no one journalist came. It's impossible. It's incredible. I was a journalist. There were not less than 25 Italian journalists in Brussels. Nobody of them came. Why? Because they know that if they came, they could not write one word about that. They could not show. And you know who arrived in the parliament to watch my film? The Russian television. The Russian television, first channel, arrived, and after half an hour, look at the paradoxical situation. Russia is not a democratic country. Okay, they arrived, and after 20 minutes, I received 2 calls from Russia. First and fourth channel asked me, can you come immediately with your film? We will show. And they showed. The first channel showed my film with the result that more or less, according not to my evaluation, but their evaluation, 50 million people watched my film. This means that the interest of the people exists. Now it is some years after. When I go to Moscow, I arrived in the airport, and every people recognize me. Ah, you are that of the Zero film. That means, what does it mean? The people is not informed. Everybody believes that 19 terrorists, guided by some people, some man living in a cave in Afghanistan, was able to create the most complicated attempt to attack the most powerful country in the world. How you can imagine this? And finally, the last thing. When I told you as I reacted when I watched television that morning. I was in Rome. After 2 days, I read an article written by the former Minister of Internal Affairs from Germany, Andreas von Bülow. He was a man very well informed. And after 3 days, he wrote an article saying, it's impossible. What they are telling, it's impossible. And I was not able to understand how he can say that. But, well, taking into account that he was former Minister of Communication, not Interior, I believe he was in condition to give this assessment. And after that, I began to study. I began to study all the documents, and I reached the same conclusion. It's impossible that 19 terrorists, so-called, unable to speak in English, never able to drive a Boeing 757, it's impossible. Nobody can do what this plane did this morning. It's impossible. From any point of view, all the pilots I've spoken with, more than 15 pilots, exclude this possibility, exclude. Well, I told, are you able? You can imagine two people driving this kind of planes. I can't imagine. You cannot fly to 1 meter high at 800 kilometers per hour. And this is not me, I am not telling. The so-called airplane hitting the Pentagon was flying because there are the data, the radar data, they have the data, and they have published this. This is not my invention. I read on the Commission 9/11 report that that plane was flying at 800 kilometers per hour, hitting the Pentagon at 1 meter high. You can believe that? All the pilots say that this kind of plane is too big to fly to this speed at 1 meter because there is turbulence. And the plane will simply crash at this, okay? Well, you ask, you look, you have to study the situation, and you understand. There are many books. Now there is a new film made by Massimo Mazzucco. It is on internet, you can take it because it is free. 5 hours with the encyclopedia of 9/11. All the documents are there.
Јас
verify.
верувам дека на гледачите на Milenko Nedelkovski Show ќе им го покажам тој филм во комплет, бидејќи веќе се договорив да тоа може да се емитува. Тоа е 5 сата филм. Значи не сат, не 2, не 3, 5.
There is 3 hours. There is a version of 5 hours, there is a version for 3 hours. You can take the 3 hours, it's wonderful. It's an encyclopedia.
Дали може да се претпостави или очекува во овој континуитет, во оваа традиција, нов измислен инцидент, што ќе предизвика некоја нова?
I believe so. I believe that they can repeat this. In fact, my curiosity is not an historical curiosity. I continue to study. I am a member of the 9/11 consensus panel. We are working, we are continuing to work, we are gathering documents and publishing documents all together. It is 25 people. The most part of them are in the United States. We will continue till the end for a political reason, because those who have organized 9/11 are in power. They did not leave the power. They are very powerful in the United States and not only there. That means they can repeat. If necessary, they will repeat. To prepare the war against Syria, they spent more or less $2 trillion. That means a huge amount of money. Who is paying the army fighting in Syria? Nobody knows, because the newspapers don't tell us. They say that there is a free Syrian army. The free Syrian army. 30,000 people on the ground, armed, very well organized. Who is paying that? It's a free Syrian army? You believe that they can face an entire army of the government of Damascus? That means these people are acting, they are working, and act very actively That means the search of the truth is very important to save ourselves.
To save the civilization.
Well, I believe to save the civilization, in any case, to stop the war. If we fight for them, they will be compelled to defend themselves, and they will not cease this work. I will go on. I will continue to gather information and to speak with people. This is my function, and I will not renounce to this work. I know it is dangerous. I know it is dangerous. Yes, I know it is dangerous. Well, this is a proof of what I am saying. Well, if I am mad, I am not dangerous. But I know that I am dangerous. It is a danger for myself, okay? I believe it is for my son, for your children, for everybody. To know the truth is very important for everybody.